Thomas Watkins at the Philly Sim. He breaks it up the middle. He's gone. Touchdown. Scoops the Gambler. Boom. Start
Say, okay, Oklahoma, here, inside the press box.
One of the most heralded traditions in college football and historic program that is the University of Oklahoma's Sooners, and we get a chance to talk about them here on day 3 of SEC Football Media Days. Head coach Brent Venables and his players will be attending the event today at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're covering it all over it here inside the press box. Mike Grace with Bart Hyche, and on site on Digital Drive there in Atlanta is our own Colin, Lacy, and Brent Osborne. And welcomed by Toby Rowland, voice of the Sooners, and is about to start his 15th season along with the OU football radio crew. Toby, Teddy, Plank, Gabe, Stats Kelly, Tom Drake, and Shep. And I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite things to do on Saturdays is find these guys on the Varsity app and listen to a little Sooner football. Toby, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm great. It's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing the Sooners on the big stage today.
And how about old number 11 there, Teddy Lehman, with a little highlight in the montage there?
Don't tell him I said this, but he's one of the all-time greats in OU history. The Butkus Award winner is our color analyst and does an outstanding job.
Well, again, I'll just ask one question and let you guys roll. Again, Brent Venables, obviously, heading into his 4th season and a big season for the Oklahoma head coach. Yes,
it is. It is. I think that the seat is warm. You know, he probably needs 8 wins at least, maybe 9 this year to make everybody feel good about the direction things are going in. It was not a good first year in the SEC. And there are circumstances. There are reasons you can point to for that. The wide receiving core was completely ravaged by injuries, as were several other pieces to the team. But nobody really cares about at the end. When you go 6-7 at OU, that's unacceptable. So he's got to win this year, and I think they've done a pretty good job of reinforcing the troops.
One of the biggest parts of this new Oklahoma team in 25 is that quarterback, John Mateer, coming in from Washington State. What have you seen from him in his short time as a Sooner?
Well, you know, the highlights of him at Washington State are strikingly similar to the way Baker Mayfield used to play. Now, that's unfair to throw on top of John Mateer before he's ever thrown a pass in a Sooner uniform. But you can't deny it. They look alike. They're similar height. They play similarly. So he may have OU fans' expectations higher than they should be just because of the Baker Mayfield expectations. But he's a gunslinger. He likes to make plays with his legs. He's brash. He did it all out on the West Coast in relative anonymity. So this is the SEC. We'll see if he can do it in this league or not. But Sooner fans are certainly excited about the potential.
What would you say is probably, I guess, like the biggest question mark coming into this year that really is going to be answered here in just a couple of weeks or in about a month or so?
I think it's got to be the offensive line. It was disappointing last year, and it was also one of the spots that was ravaged by injuries. They have fortified that. It looks like it's better. The guys that were injured are healthy. They brought in reinforcements in the portal. Bill Bedenbaugh, who has put more guys in the NFL on the offensive line than any other O-line coach in America, is excited about this crew. But Sooner fans are rightfully so a little gun shy. We'll see it. We got to see it to believe it kind of situation. If the O-line is good, I don't even say talking great. If the O-line is good, middle of the pack in the SEC, last year they were bottom of the pack. Then with Mateer and Jaden Ott and the weapons they brought in and the defense they've got, I think Oklahoma's got a chance to make some waves this year.
I'm looking, if I remember correctly, I don't have it pulled up. Auburn's a really big game for this Oklahoma team this season, right? Would that be the swing game you think that like Oklahoma fans are pointing to, like we got to have that one at home?
It's the SEC opener. It's at home. It's the return of Jackson Arnold, who was Oklahoma's quarterback last year. So, yes, I think it is one of about 7 swing games on the schedule. Before that, they've got Michigan. If you beat Michigan, you're feeling good about yourself early in the year. If you don't, maybe not. And right after that, they've got Texas, which is always the biggest game on the schedule. But the SEC opener with the hoopla of Jackson Arnold coming back, and it's at home, that's a game that I think you got to win that one, so sure.
But I also, to just follow that point up, I was having this conversation last night with a couple of Aubs that were in a restaurant in Jackson. That's Auburn fans down here in the South.
I deciphered that. Thank you.
I know, and I'm sorry, that might be disrespectful to even say you didn't know that. Brent Venables' defense was good last year, man, especially throughout the last course of the year at times. Aren't they going to know Jackson Arnold and his skill set and have a pretty decent scout against him? I just think that's a huge advantage for Oklahoma walking into that game.
Yeah, potentially. But if I'm Jackson Arnold and I am at practice, spring ball and in the fall, and I look out and I see the wide receivers Auburn has, that looks nothing like what he had at Oklahoma last year. I look at the offensive line and the running game that he has. That looks nothing like what he has at Oklahoma. So I don't know if we have a fair barometer of what Jackson Arnold is based on how he played last year. I like the kid. I think he's got a tremendous opportunity to succeed. And what he was faced with last year was completely unfair. He had nobody to throw the ball to, and he had no time to throw the ball. And he was asked to make plays repeatedly with his legs because there was no other option. If they can block for him and they have a balanced attack, I mean, there's a reason the kid was the national player of the year coming out of high school. So you make a good point. I think Oklahoma does know the strengths and weaknesses of Jackson Arnold to an extent, but potentially by the time they get to that game, he's not the same Jackson Arnold we saw in Norman.
Catching up with the voice of the Oklahoma Sooners and Toby Rowland. Talk about this defense. What makes this defense so good, and what area do they feel the best about going into this season?
It's Brent Venables. You can look at every year he's ever done this, and his defenses, whether at Oklahoma back in the day, Clemson, or Oklahoma again, have been at the top of the country. It is extremely complicated. It is multiple. It is confusing. They will blitz you from everywhere on the field, and they're good at it. And he's done a good job, a really good job in this day and age of retaining players. And that's vital in this defense because you're not going to catch everything in year one. You really need guys that have been there 2 or 3 years to understand the complicated nature of this defense. I think the front seven, shockingly, in year two of the SEC, the front seven and specifically the defensive line might be the best in the SEC. It's certainly one of the best. Nobody thought when Oklahoma was coming into this league that their defensive line would be able to match up against the Alabamas and Georgias of the world. They have built a defensive line and a front seven that's right there with those guys. At least they need to be, and they feel like they can be. And last year they were really good, led by Armason Thomas, who will be here today. Tremendous pass rusher.
Coming into this 2025 season, is there a certain player that you would say, maybe a young player or somebody's kind of maybe getting their first start or true impact into the season? Is there anybody that you think is going to stand out in particular that's kind of under the radar that a lot of people don't know about?
I'll give you one guy on each side of the ball. Defensively, there's a youngster. He'll be a sophomore this year named Eli Bowen. As a true freshman last year at corner, he shocked them and ended up starting the second half of the season. He's not very big. He's 5'9", 5'10", which is not what you look for, but he's a tremendous football player, has incredible instincts. His brother Peyton Bowen will start at safety on this team as well. But Eli, I think, has a chance to be a star. The other guy is making his first start at OU because he transferred here is Jade Knott, the running back from Cal that so far not a lot of people around here have been talking about, but I think he's got a chance to burst onto the scene this year. Another one of those West Coast guys, though, that we'll see if he can do it in the SEC.
So I have a personal question, Toby.
Okay.
That a lot of State fans would like to know. What's going on with the Oklahoma AD situation up there? Do I need to start looking for one?
I've run Joe Castiglione out. I'm trying to take things over there. No, Joe C is the longest tenured AD in America. He's 67 years old. He's of retirement age. I think there are some conspiracy theorists out there that feel like maybe something is going on. I think the reality of the situation, and we're very close. We talk almost daily. The reality of the situation is he wanted to get Oklahoma through the transition to the SEC. And then he's been doing this for 28 years in a highly stressful situation. The world of college athletics is changing. He's got, children and soon-to-be grandkids, and he's of retirement age, and he's made plenty of money, and it's time to kind of ride off into the sunset. He'll be a consultant, I'm sure a very highly paid one for OU or whoever else wants to bring him in. If college football at large wants to give him a bigger role, maybe he'll do that. But there's nothing fishy going on other than one of the all-time great ADs has decided that he's ready to chase sunsets and play golf.
Bart's real concern is that his Mississippi State athletic director, Zach
okay.
Tillman,
Yeah,
is
well,
going to be poached. Yeah.
he's the leading candidate, I would say.
Gotta be.
There are 33 men and women who worked under Joe Castiglione who have gone on to be athletic directors or conference commissioners. And Zach has the Selman name, and he's the most recent one, and he's very popular in Norman. So I think that he's probably got the best odds, but there are a lot of people who are speculating that maybe the traditional AD route with everything that's going on in NIL is not the way they're going to go. I don't know. If I had to make a guess today, I would say Zach is the guy, but it's less than 50% even at that, I'd say.
Well, I'd like to finish that up by saying this, whether he is or is not the guy, and there's a lot of people who are just flat out don't look at what's going on. He has been excellent for Mississippi State. He has continued to answer the bell every single day. And you know his best attribute, Toby, is just like a great attribute Jesus had. He's a great listener. And sometimes when people are listening all the time, other folks fall over themselves. I just love Zach Selman.
Great
I
guy.
hope he stays. But if he comes back to Oklahoma, man, you are getting a gem.
Great guy. Love him to death. And he's got a dad and two uncles with a statue on campus. That's a little hard to overlook.
Dive into Brent Venables. Going into his fourth season at Oklahoma, you've seen all of it. What has that transition like for him been? He had the name, he had the pedigree as a defensive coordinator. What has it been like for him stepping back into a head coaching role and really elevating this Oklahoma team back?
I think it has been rocky. Not all of it his fault. He has had shifting sands of college football under him, a move to a new conference, and a revolving door at offensive coordinator. Jeff Lebby obviously moved on after 1 year for a great reason. Last year, then he hired Seth Luttrell. That didn't work out. Had to make a change in the middle of the season. Now they've gone and got Ben Arbuckle, who looks like on paper to be a great hire. So the offensive side of the ball has been not what we're used to at OU. Defense has been pretty dadgum good, especially considering how long they've been on the field and how bad the offense has been. He has had some personal issues going on off the field. The wife has been battling cancer and everything, and they haven't won as many games as he would like. So you put all that in a bundle. New conference, NIL changing the way he likes to do things, offense not performing, revolving door at OC and everything. And it has been not what Oklahoma fans come to expect, which has led to this is year 4. We love BV. We want him to succeed. Everybody there loves Brent Venables and wants him to succeed, but you can't do it. You can't drop another 6 and 7.
There's been a lot of people around the national media side and a lot of buzz around the last couple of days that Oklahoma could be that team that takes a huge step going into 2025. We've talked about the transfers you've got coming in, especially on the offensive side. From your eyes, you've seen a lot of Oklahoma football. Going into this season, how much is the excitement in Norman?
Cautiously off the charts. Every year going in at OU, if you don't make the college football playoff, especially if there's going to be 12 teams in it or more, it's a disappointing year. They consider themselves, and I think rightfully so, one of the blue bloods of this sport. So with the infusion of Mateer and Ott, with a healthy wide receiving core, with a fortified offensive line, and a new offensive coordinator that they're very excited about, they feel like or hope they have fixed the offense. If that's true, there's really not a lot of concern that they're going to play good defense. So if they fix the offense, I think they could be a team that emerges from the SEC as a contender for a playoff spot this year. But they are gun shy as well, Sooner fans I'm talking about, because last year was traumatic, and they want to make sure everybody stays healthy because last year it was a mash unit out there.
I just remember being a kid in Winfield, Alabama, and taping or writing Holloway on the back of a number 4 jersey and going out in my yard and running the option all afternoon in about 83. That's the glory of Oklahoma that I remember.
Sure.
I remember Jamel Holloway. I just remember the presence, the power, does it have to be a national championship? Like, I know right now it's cautious optimism, what have you, but if you get to that playoff, doesn't that get that Oklahoma back where I want it?
Yeah, I mean,
And beat
Jamel
Texas.
Holloway, Brian Bosworth, Keith Jackson, the glory days of the 80s. That was I think this year, if they get back to the playoff, if they get to the playoff, Oklahoma fans will say, all right, things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Oklahoma is not different than Alabama. It's about winning national championships.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, hey, we got close. Good for us. That doesn't fly at OU. But considering where they've been the last 2 or 3 years, I think this year, if they are a contender in the SEC and they make it to the playoff, Sooner fans will be pretty excited about the direction the program is going in.
Getting ready for season number 15 as the voice of the Sooners, also as News 9 sports director and KREF contributor. He is Toby Rowland on social media at TROOU, at OU Radio Crew, and you can listen online come the kickoff, Soonersports.com, and on the Varsity app. Toby, thanks so much for making time for us. Enjoy your time in Atlanta, man.
Pleasure. Thanks for letting me join you guys.
You bet. Again, Toby Rowland, outstanding work as the voice of the Sooners, getting ready again for season number 15 as the voice of Oklahoma. And gosh, he's got a fantastic. Here's one note I looked at, fellas. Brent Venables' road games in the SEC this year. He goes to South Carolina. That's October 18th. They go to Tennessee on November 1, and they go to Alabama on November 15th. For what it's worth, the Sooners are 7-13 straight up outside of Norman under head coach Venables. 7-13.
They're going to go to the playoff. They've got to win 2 of those 3 games that you just mentioned, and then they've got to beat Auburn at home. So they've got to win 3 of those 4 games with maybe a loss at Alabama. Well, they got to win at Tennessee and South Carolina and or Alabama flip-flop one of those, right?
I would say so. The other thing I was kind of thinking of when he was talking about it too is, obviously they underperformed compared to their standards last year, especially with their first time being in the SEC. But something that I think that really stung even more was seeing how well their biggest rival, Texas, handled being in the SEC for the first season as well, and seeing how well they performed and were able to succeed and make it all the way to the playoffs and have a run and make it to the SEC championship. I think that also kind of, as an Oklahoma fan, I'm sure that stung even more seeing your rival succeed when they're on the same stage as you for the first time.
It has been an up and down tenure so far. Venables started in 2022 with a 6-7 mark, bounced back in 23 and won 10 games. Then they were back to 6-7 last year, 6-6 in their first year in the SEC. So again, the 10-win deal is what they're. If history holds, 10 wins probably gets them into the playoff, does it not?
I think so.
Yeah.
And especially
any SEC team in the playoff.
Yeah, a 10-win SEC team, and especially when you have to go at Alabama to Tennessee, as much as it may not look like it on paper, at South Carolina is a big one.
And then,
you get Ole Miss at home.
Yep.
You get LSU at home.
Finishing the season against LSU, who we have right now is projected to could be a very, very good top team. We'll wait and see, but I mean that could be a big game there at the end of the season.
Huge game, yeah.
I just don't want to take my guy.
I just don't want him to take Zach.
I just don't want them to ride him out on that.
I understand. All right, thanks again to Toby Rowland, voice of the Sooners. Coming up in hour 2 of the Press Box, we're just halfway through day number 3 for SEC Football Media Days. We already have interviews set up with Laura Rutledge of ESPN and the SEC Network, with Craig Way, voice of the Texas Longhorns. And we know it's Mississippi State Day. Jeff Levy, the head coach, has been roaming around Digital Drive. Maybe we'll get him. We'll just see. We'll play it by ear. Colin, Lacy, Brent, Osborne on site, the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Bart Hyche from his Jackson, Mississippi hotel room, and yours truly, Mike Grace, in the MGL Production Studios. Glad to have you with us on great radio stations around the Southeast, online 24/7 at PressBoxRadio.com, and again, streaming live video on the new YouTube page. It's youtube.com/PressBoxRadio. Find us there. Stick around for hour 2 of the Press Box.